Hi, Robert Hammond here. I'm an agronomic solutions advisor for BASF covering Northeast North Dakota. I'm standing in a field east of Langdon, North Dakota, a canola field as you can see, with Jordan Varberg. He's our senior agronomic advisor for BASF, covering mainly our Invigor canola lineups. And today we're going to ask him a few questions about late season insects. I know one I get a question a lot on, Jordan, is Diamondback Moth. What's some lookouts we have with Diamondback Moth later in the canola growing season?
Well, thank you, Rob. And yeah, Diamondback Moth is one that we do get several calls on later in the season. It is a moth that flies in from the south and it lays eggs on the canola plants. And it has a little larvae, and the larvae are the ones that actually cause damage to the plants. And then they'll pupate and they'll become adults and fly around and lay more eggs in the canola. So they may cycle a couple times through the season. What we see is we'll see a little bit of a flower loss on the canola plants, because it usually happens about bloom time is when we'll see the first evidence of Diamondback Moth in the field. The larval stages, they'll feed up on the flower blooms, just below the flower blooms, and they'll turn white and kind of die off within the crop, and you'll see these white patches. It's usually a patch in the field, and you'll see some the loss of the flower petals, and then you'll see some feeding on the plants as well, and can cause significant loss in different areas of the field. What farmers can do is they can spray an insecticide on the canola once they hit their threshold stages for Diamondback Moth.
Very interesting. So at what stage is the canola far enough along where we probably don't have to worry about any economic loss from them anymore?
I would probably say you start getting to where the crop is starting to mature. You know, they feed on green vegetative material, so once that crop is starting to dry down, you're probably okay and you wouldn't have to spray an insecticide on them.
Something else we see a lot, and you're actually holding a plant that has some, is some curled pods at the end. Is that caused by insects, or is there something else going on there?
No, that's caused by another insect called a thrip. And then what the thrip does, it feeds on the pod and releases some hormones in the saliva that causes the pod to curl around. Usually there isn't any reason to spray for it. It happens in low incidences and it's not an issue, but it does look funny when the growers are looking at it or customers looking at that pod.
Good to know, because that's one I get a lot, and I know it does look kind of funny, and a lot of nice big long pods and then a few curled up ones, and don't know what's going on there.
Right. Anytime there's something going on with the crop and you have good crop prices and a nice crop, you guys are going to ask questions about every little thing you see in the field. So.
And one more question that it seems like it's popped up more in the recent years, much more than it did in the past, is we always know flea beetles can be an issue early on in the season, but I'm getting the question more later on in the season where there's just so many of them on a plant. Is that something we should be concerned about more than we used to, or is it just something that we need to get used to?
Well, I think some of it is a bit of both. You can do something about it, or you may not. If you're spraying for Diamondback Moth, of course you're going to take the flea beetles out at the same time. But a lot of times, those late season flea beetle infestations are the adults from the offspring of the adults from the last spring. Because flea beetles have usually a one cycle per year. So what you see in the spring are the adults from the previous fall. And those ones you're seeing in the fall are the ones you'll see next spring. So some farmers may want to go out and do a revenge spray on them, thinking they'll reduce them for next season. It's usually maybe not a recommendation, because they don't usually cause a lot of damage. They're late in the season, unless you start losing pods and different things. Maybe you do want to have a late season insecticide application. But for most part, they don't cause a lot of damage. It's the next spring you'll see the damage from those insects. So.
Well, thanks, Jordan, for all that great information. And if you guys would like any more information, please contact your local BASF rep, and they would be glad to help you out.